The first time I crossed paths with Brenda Lockett, she was planted square in the middle of a dusty trail, wearing a neon safety vest and clutching a clipboard like it was a badge of authority. She insisted I check in before walking to my own cabin. By the end of the week, she'd called a mandatory HOA meeting to vote me off her land. What she didn't know was that I had just purchased the entire forest she believed she controlled. My name's Caleb Mercer. At 44, I finally landed my dream property, 1,200 acres of pine and cedar in Hollow Creek Highlands, complete with an old cabin I'd been renovating for a month. I make my living as a wildlife photographer and sometimes work construction. I chose this spot for its solitude. The nearest town was half an hour away. I hadn't factored in Brenda Lockett, HOA president of Pine Valley Estates, amateur forest ranger, and self-declared enforcer for everything within 5 miles. Pine Valley Estates was about 40 near-identical vacation cabins painted the same HOA-approved brown with green shutters. Technically, they were my closest neighbors, but the nearest one was still half a mile away. Trouble showed up 3 days after I moved in. I was clearing deadfall near the cabin when I heard someone clear their throat behind me. Turning around, I saw a woman in her late 50s dressed in what looked like a park ranger uniform. Board online, clipboard, whistle, a glare that could stop traffic. She declared I was in violation of HOA Regulation 7.3 unauthorized forestry activities. I told her I wasn't part of her HOA and that I was cleaning my own land. She claimed all Hollow Creek fell under HOA jurisdiction. I laughed. She demanded my property deed and a tree removal permit. I told her I didn't need permission to pick up sticks. She scribbled notes and promised I'd hear from the board. Over the next week, I got 3 official-looking notices taped to trees on my driveway. First, unauthorized removal of natural debris. Second, altering trail aesthetics. I'd moved a fallen log. Third, installing unapproved birdhouses, 2 of them, for my own enjoyment. Each notice threatened fines and legal action, signed by Brenda, who was listed as president, secretary, treasurer, and compliance officer. The last straw came when I caught her photographing my woodpile. She claimed it was an unapproved outdoor storage facility and handed me a pink urgent summons to appear before the HOA board Thursday night. I decided to attend, but not the way she expected. I spent the next 3 days at the county courthouse pulling property records. Pine Valley Estates only had legal authority over their 43 lots. My property, all 1,200 acres, was entirely separate. When I hired a rush survey, the surveyor, Dennis, discovered something big. 3 HOA trails crossed into my land. One went nearly 300 yards over. Their prized wedding gazebo, 420 feet inside my boundary. Thursday, I walked into their community center, a converted double-wide carrying a giant survey map and a folder of documents. Brenda sat up front, gavel in hand, with 2 reluctant board members. Beside her, she opened the meeting with accusations about my violations. I asked to share some documents. She waved me on. I unrolled the 3 times for map and taped it behind her. With a laser pointer, I outlined my property in green, theirs in red. The overlap was undeniable. Brenda stammered. I produced their original HOA charter, then my deed, which predated their development by decades. I pointed to the trespassing trails and the gazebo. The room erupted. Brenda tried spouting legal terms. She clearly Googled, but I handed over a letter from my attorney, Patricia Sullivan, warning of imminent legal action. I told them all HOA members were now banned from my property, trails would be closed, and the gazebo removed within 72 hours. The meeting dissolved into shouting. I posted a no trespassing sign on the community center door with a map of my boundary, then hired a crew to install gates and cameras at each trespassing trail. Brenda returned with the sheriff the next day, demanding my arrest. Deputy Morrison glanced at my paperwork and told her to stop calling 911 for civil disputes. On Monday, the gazebo came down. I offered to let them move it for $18,000. They refused. I had it dismantled, the lumber stacked neatly at the property line. Brenda filed an emergency injunction Friday. The judge tossed it Monday morning, reportedly laughing at her claim I was stealing community resources. The Pine Valley Facebook group went into meltdown. Residents learned they'd spent $40,000 on improvements to land they didn't own. Then someone uncovered Brenda had been collecting a forest maintenance fee for years, nearly $30,000 for upkeep on my property. Accusations of embezzlement flew. She was voted out unanimously at an emergency board meeting. The HOA's insurance company and the state attorney general launched investigations. Receipts showed she'd used funds for personal luxuries, a hot tub, builder's gazebo heating, a Florida trip listed as a forestry conference. In the end, Brenda pled guilty to embezzlement and fraud, got 5 years probation, and was ordered to repay $58,000. When the judge read the sentence, she collapsed, sobbing that her life was ruined over some stupid property lines.